and I'm the founder of Soulfully Connecting, and a great pleasure interviewing Audra Brown today. Audra is one of our very valued authors, and she's a Reiki master and a light worker, and she does healing in many different forms. So hello, Audra. Really, really nice to speak to you today.
Hello, it's very nice to meet everyone as well.
Okay. Okay, so I'll let Audra explain all about what she does. And she can do it so much better than I can. But I know that said she's a light worker, shaman, an empath. She reads the cards, so she's kind of multidimensional. So Audra, it's over to you. Who are you? Who is Audra Brown?
I am a lover of my fellow human being. I am a light worker. This has been something that I've done ever since childhood. My parents were both healers. It wasn't something we talked about. It was just something that we did. And so years later, as the Reiki came into being for me, I started to realize that my corporate job was not satisfying me and that I had a calling that the universe just was not letting me not hear. And so I decided to start working with the Reiki more regularly. Originally, my intention was that I was going to use it for myself and family and friends. And then something happened along about the time that I got attuned to be a master. And the information for me just began to change. And the things that I had always done, my intuitiveness, all of those things began to heighten, and I just got a sense that I had more to do. And so I started Universal Life Reiki, and I have been doing it here in my home. I have a sacred space set up that I use for nothing but that. It's amazing how when you put the positive out to the universe, how the universe then takes that and utilizes that to bring that back into you. And so many people have come into my life that I needed so much. They thought that they needed me, but I really needed them. And so it was really, it's been a blessing, and it's an ongoing blessing. And I'm so thankful. So I'm just a lover of my fellow human being, trying the best that I can to love them and help them in whatever form or capacity that I can do.
That's I totally understand that thing. Sorry, there's a bit of an echo going on. So what do you do? Do you do other things other than Reiki? I don't know. Is there an echo on your side, Audra?
There's not. It's an echo. I can hear a little bit of an echo from you, and there's a lag with you, but. Okay. I just wait a moment and then I can understand.
Okay. Okay. We have technology. We have to work through it.
It's great when it works.
Oh, absolutely. Wish it did it all the time. So I know you. So you got into the Reiki. I assume it's something you're really drawn to. But what about the other things that you do? I mean. How do they work in with the Reiki? Do you do
I feel like that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you do?
I do other things.
Yeah. Within when people come to you for a Reiki treatment, do they also come to you for other things at the same time, or are they all separate?
It's usually kind of at the same time. I really let spirit in. I'm very one to just let the energy move how it does. So a client will say to me, say that it's a new client, and they'll ask me about having a Reiki treatment, and I tell them that they usually last an hour, usually 2, but I don't put a time limit on it, because I say to them, once we get the energy flowing and things are moving, who am I to stop that energy? When it's done, it's done. And so I tell them, plan to be with me for a while. Don't plan that you're going to run in and run out and it's like going to the hairdresser and getting a quick trim, because if while we're doing the Reiki, say I use one of my pendulums and I'm dowsing chakras and I find that there's a block there, and as I'm working with that chakra and we begin to open that up and emotional things come up for them, they share that with me, it may lead to other things. They may need some coaching, they may need some sort of answers, they may need to just have time to be safe and to be loved and cared for. So I was trained in the Yushui method of Reiki, which is the classic Japanese Reiki, but it just evolved because of my own self. And so I don't just stay with one mode. I let spirit lead me where it leads me. So if they need cards for validation for something that they're pondering, or if they need multiple cards, I use oracle cards, maybe work with the angels. If I were to get some sort of messaging from them or a past loved person, a loved one of theirs come through, I always let them know, here's what I'm hearing, here's what I'm thinking, and let them guide me as to which way they want to go. Some people want to delve into that, other people don't, because one of the things that I find with doing light work and energy work is the word work. And some people want to do that work and other people are not ready for that yet. They may come at a later date that they may be. So I use whatever tools or magic that needs to be given in order to support them how they want. I don't try and push them into knowing that this is how they're going to get an answer. I give them what they want and just try and love them.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, because as you might know, I also do the cards and I'm a healer as well. And I've done that for many years. And, you find that, if you suddenly tell somebody that somebody stood behind them, it would freak some people out, where other people, they sometimes will ask, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes spirit comes in, sometimes they don't.
It's right.
Yeah, but do you find, I quite often find that it's childhood stuff or past life stuff that is causing the issues now, rather than anything that's happening.
I agree 100%. I find that so many people, that was one of the things when I was in my corporate job, if you will. I worked at an alternative medical clinic and I saw these people and they were doing everything that they could. They had gone the medical route for different ailments or situations. And I would see them come and do everything that they were being asked to do. And spirit's telling me until they go into what's the root of the issue, they're never going to get ahead. It doesn't matter how many supplements they take. It doesn't matter how many visits they take, unless you're willing to do the work internally. And if that means going back into childhood and dealing with something that is there, then you have a choice. You can do that. And I try and be there to assist them to do that. If they don't want to do them, then I assist them the best way that I can. But I definitely find that so much of our past lifetimes and our childhood is so much of what is at work or what is afoot with us these days.
Yeah, I do totally agree with that, because you'll get, I do believe that people have to heal themselves, that you can't go ahead and heal somebody without asking their permission or going that route. But when people heal, they sometimes just need some direction, because I know people that say, well, I've healed this and I've gone through this and I've meditated and I've worked out this and I've worked out that, and then a crisis comes up, it pushes all their buttons and they've gone back to square one, and all the things they think they've cleared, they haven't gone deep enough. And sometimes right. You just need someone to lead them by the nose sometimes, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but just give them some direction, but also to push them, to show them something and make them feel safe while they're exploring something they might not really want to explore.
I agree. I find too, as people expand and they change from year to year or time to time, as we expand or we grow older or we mature, things that you thought, myself personally, that you had worked out and had it in its own little box and put away and done with, they come back up again. And it's then another choice to deal with that. And it's just a change in perception. And it's once your perceptions change about everything in life because you're changing, then you have to go back and deal with those things again. And sometimes I will have clients that will say, oh my gosh, I thought we had that taken care of. Do I what do have to do? And then I support them in that and say, hey, let me give you a personal story about myself. And this is what I've had to do in the same thing. Because I think as we evolve, we have to bring those things back up and work with them again to move them forward, because that situation is different because we're different.
Yeah. Do you find that at the moment there's so much going on, planetary things are going on, that people they're having to deal with so much at the moment? It's like if you haven't already started doing your internal clearing, it's like you've now got a deadline on it. You know, because I mean I've been around for a long time, and you've got all. You do all this learning, you do all this progression. I've been working on this since I started when I was probably about 19, on my conscious journey, though obviously as a child it was different. But my conscious journey started when I was about 19. And you go along the way, and it's just, but you gradually do the work. But nowadays I think people, they've got books, which, I mean, there were no books. I don't know about when you started this, but we had to find our own way through all these sorts of things. Now there's so many videos out, and you've got the internet, and you've got books and things. I mean, I thought I was really weird until I read a book. I was probably into my, late 30s or something. I kind of read a book and I thought, oh, maybe I'm not so weird after all. there is somebody else out there.
Yeah.
It was such a relief. So now people they have much more understanding that you can find it if you want to find it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
I agree. I think I was raised in a military family. My parents were weird. And so I was, I had my clan, and I thought, well, everybody was weird. And because we moved around so much and we were everywhere all the time, I didn't realize until I got to be about 17 or 18, like, you're really weird. And so it was fun to do the work and to move forward and to find my tribe, and realize that there are a lot more of us out there, and people are just searching so much for so much love. But back to your question about what you were talking about with the planetary things and so much going on. I had a client the other day who coined the phrase. She said, it's like everybody I know is just squirming. And I thought, what a perfect way to describe that. And I said, well, we're just going to do everything we can to love them and to help them, feel more comfortable in their state of squirm. So that's funny that she said that just the other day, and I thought that was the perfect word.
It really is, because people are so overwhelmed. There's so many things going on, and it's quite frightening if you don't have the knowledge to go forward, or if you don't believe in this stuff. And there's so many people that don't. They think it's airy fairy. Right. I think it's all airy fairy, and that it's an easy route. But believe me, I think if I just concentrated on corporate, where I was for many years, and just going up the ladder and pursuing money, I think probably in some ways it would have been easier in a worldly way. But
I agree.
Because it's
I wasn't getting. Yes. Yes.
But when you're a bit different, it's amazing how many. It's like people get threatened, don't they? It's because you're not in the box. it's quite an interesting journey.
I even find that in some of the alternative communities, you know, because my Reiki is hands-on. The classic Ushui method is taught with your hands to hover, which is fine. I find that hands-on is hands-on, and the reason that it is for me was that I was always a very touchy, huggy person. My parents raised me that way, and that's a way for me to convey that energy and love. And so even within the alternative community, it's amazing how people will try and get you into a box that's comfortable for them, even in their alternativeness. And they'll say, well, this is how we do Reiki. And I said, well, that's great. And they said, oh, well, I don't believe in, you know, adding these things to it. Well, that's okay. That's fine. And I support you in that. But for me, that's how I do it, you know, and it's the way that I convey the love to them. So I totally get that. But it's amazing that even in our alternative communities, we have some of that discrimination going on, and people will say things because I think they're part of that squirming, and it's all about fear, you know. And that's a big thing for me and for my clients. I tell them all the time, we're not going to fear that. I'm going to help you. I'm going to support you. You're going to heal yourself, and we're just going to take it one little piece at a time. And I find myself, especially lately, telling people to be gentler and easier on themselves, and to not do so much and think these tremendous hurdles to jump. Just pick one spot, feel it, stand in your truth and your light, and then move forward from that point and let it all fall in its place in its time.
Yeah, and I think it depends a lot on the person that you're working with as well. I remember I lived in Portugal for a little while, for a few years, and I was asked to go and do some healing on this lady who had a real kind of real issues, physical issues. And so I went along and I did healing on her. And she said to me, you know, it was so nice. She said, people come and they do healing on me, and I'm sure it's great. They do it, or they don't touch me. So I don't even know they're there. I'm not sure if they're there or not. But it's so nice to actually have someone physically touch you. Whereas some people can be more comfortable with not being touched. But
yes,
it depends on the person themselves.
It does.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So, what are the particular challenges you have with the work that you do?
I guess people have a religious fear sometimes. They feel that their connotations of scripture has taught them, or someone has made them feel a certain way. And so for some people, I find that it can be a detriment to them, because they're not wanting to let go, realizing that it is spirit. It is the spirit that they're concerned with that's doing and working all of that. I tell them, you know, I am strictly the conduit. It is between you and spirit in whatever form that makes you comfortable, or whatever form that you think. But I think sometimes that's really the only obstacle that I see with people. I don't really see a financial thing. I don't see you know, people not receiving what they need from it. I think it's a spiritual type thing. And it's amazing to me. I'll have a client and say, I'll see them 3 or 4 times, knowing full well the first time that we got together that they had questions that we could have answered using the cards and given them some forethought and a change in perspective. And maybe the 4th or 5th time we're together, it's like it's palatable. You can hear it, that's what they want. And I'll recommend it, and I'll say, is that something that you would be okay with, or would that make you uncomfortable? Once you explain, or once they go through it, I have a lady who is a personal friend, but also a client. And this just happened with, she's very religious. And we did a reading the other day for her, and it was so spot on. Every single card spoke to her as if it were directly at her, which of course it was. And when we got done, she had tears in her eyes. We both had tears in our eyes. And she said, God was talking to us, Audra. And I said, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so I think that's the only thing that thus far, knock on wood, that I have come into contact with is a fear that people think that you're doing some sort of negativeness. And so I always assure them that where I'm coming from is only from the light, and I only accept anything from the light, so that's the best that I can give them to make them feel comfortable. Other than that, it's their choice to move forward with it or not.
It's interesting you say that. I remember I did the festival for many years, about 14 years, and I did this one. So it's all this echoing again. I don't know what's happening. I was at a festival, and at another table there were these people that were telling everybody not to have their cards read because it was safe work. You know, they eventually got asked to leave because people had paid, obviously, to take part in it. But interestingly, I think we've got more clients because people were a bit curious, let's say. So we actually got more clients, I think, by telling people not to come to us. It was a bit bizarre. But people do have deeply held beliefs, and I respect those beliefs.
Yes.
You know, and the cards and the healing and everything isn't for everybody.
No, it's not.
You know, because people have got to go and follow what is their belief at the time. Maybe in a few years' time, you know, I've had friends that would never touch a reading, and then a few years later they'll ask me for a reading because they've come to their own understanding of it, or sometimes it's just because they know me and they trust me. They wouldn't go anywhere else because they happen to know me. So it's an interesting thing, isn't it? How beliefs get in the way. But you know, I have my own strong beliefs as well. There's lots of things I wouldn't do that people would think, oh,
that's right.
So it cuts both
that's
ways.
right.
It cuts both ways. You know.
I just find that if I am authentic with myself and with everyone I come in contact with, whether that's something that they relate to or can understand, I don't really try and make myself something different than what I am. I try and be as authentic as I can and stand in my own truth and my own light and let that be out there. And whatever comes of that, then I'm grateful for that either way. And I think that's the only thing that I can do is just be authentic and loving and giving and do the best that I can do.
That's a way forward now, because there was always this fear about being vulnerable, and now you've got to be vulnerable because that's the only, because vulnerability is not something to be feared, but everyone's got it. As soon as you're vulnerable, people are going to try and shoot you down, and of course there's always going to be some people who are going to try and do that. I mean, that's the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
It is.
But
I heard a saying the other day, and it was very apropos, and it said, rejection is spiritual protection. And I loved that. I thought that's excellent, you know, and I have applied that in so many of my thought processes since then, that even when I'm rejecting something in my own thought process, or if I have a client that's rejecting something, that's their spiritual protection. That's taking care of them. And who am I to jump in there and try and, you know, push my thought processes on them? When they're ready for it, they'll ask me for it, and I'll stand in my light and be honest and truthful with them and just be authentic.
Yeah, and that's a way to go. So what are the particular joys you have? I can ascertain some of them, but what are the joys you have with the work you do?
It's so amazing to be a part of people's lives and to see them blossom and to see possibilities blossom, to see their perceptions change, to see their relationships change, to see them physically change, health-wise. Just the gratitude that I have to them. And I always tell them, you know, when we do sessions together, you know, thank you so much, because when you give Reiki, you get Reiki. I always know that the things that I'm saying to them are exactly what I need to hear as well. So much of the joy is just the interaction with my fellow human being, and know that I can hug them and touch them and love them and do everything that I can to give them rest and peace, and just to see a peace come over someone's face that's been suffering with something for so long. If they have a relative come through, a past relative, and you just say the word, or say, you know, I have a lady here and she's in a pink pantsuit, and they immediately know exactly who it is, just to watch that energy change with them, and to see that you're, you know, loving your fellow human being for no other reason other than just to love them and to try and help them and give them peace, which is what I think that we're all here trying to learn to do. We all have our own ways and all, but that's really my biggest joy, is helping someone and seeing the healing that they create using the tools that I try and help them with.
There's nothing like it, is there? There's really nothing like it.
There really isn't.
Yeah,
There really isn't.
It's been really lovely talking to you, Audra, and
You as well.
Yeah, so many people will now understand what Audra does, and can you give people your contact details, please, Audra? You're obviously American, so maybe tell people where you live.
I can. They can use my email address, which is audiandkrishna@gmail.com. That's spelled AUDIEANDKRISHNA@gmail.com. My website is www.universallifereiki.com. And my phone number, I'd be glad, it's a cell phone. I use it all the time. It's 484-529-2761. Any way that they'd like to contact me, I would be grateful to be able to be in contact with them.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Audra, for spending your time.
Thank you.
And if you want to read any of Audra's articles, then you can find her on Soulfully Connecting, which is www.soulfully-connecting.com. I apologize for the kind of slight backlash of the technical. I don't know if it will come out in the final video, but there's a bit of kind of throwback of voices and things. So I apologize if it's a bit difficult to hear at times. But anyway, thank you very much, Audra, and I'll be reading about you soon on Soulfully Connecting.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, goodbye, everybody, from Audra and myself.
Goodbye.